Hey there, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're tackling a play that's got it all. Forbidden love, power struggles,
Yeah.
and choices that just make your stomach twist. Get ready to dive into l'amour qui nous tient. That's the love that holds us in French. Don't worry, we'll break it all down for you.
Yeah.
But get ready for some intense drama.
What's truly captivating about this play is how it takes a classic love triangle
Yeah,
and just throws it into the harsh reality of slavery. It makes you question, what does love even mean when basic human rights are stripped away?
right. We meet Kofi, a strong and determined enslaved man who's immediately drawn to Amma. Now, she's a woman trying to survive in this impossible situation,
Right.
and their connection is clear from the start. But of course, nothing is simple in this world. Enter M. Francois. He's the embodiment of cruelty and holds all the power.
The playwright wastes no time showing us just how brutal this world is. Act 1 opens with this seemingly innocent scene. Kofi helps Amma pick up a fallen apple. It's a moment of connection, a spark of humanity in this dark setting.
It's almost like you forget for a second where they are. And then, bam, M. Francois appears. Talk about a mood killer. He immediately accuses Kofi of wrongdoing and drags him away.
It's such a stark contrast. One minute you're feeling this tender moment between Kofi and Amma, and then the next you're hit with the raw power that M. Francois wields. It really underscores how vulnerable enslaved people were, always at the mercy of someone else's whim.
And it's not just him. The play introduces us to Elsie and Alda,
Mhm.
who, let's be honest, are the epitome of privilege.
They represent that upper class, completely detached from the suffering around them. It's chilling to see how they view Kofi, not as a human being, but as an object for their amusement.
Alda even jokes about wanting Kofi in her room, and they both laugh about it. And remember that scene where two women, clearly burdened by their work, walk by. Elsie and Alda completely ignore them, lost in their own world of privilege.
It's those little details that really highlight the playwright's genius. He's showing us how casual cruelty becomes woven into the fabric of this society. Elsie and Alda may not be directly whipping anyone, but their indifference and sense of entitlement contribute to the system of oppression, just as much as M. Francois' brutality.
It's like their silence is a form of complicity, you know?
Yeah.
And then there's that scene where Elsie forces M. Francois to untie Kofi against his will. Talk about a power play.
That moment right there reveals how even someone like M. Francois, who seems to have all the power, is actually caught in this web of control. He's beholden to Elsie and her social standing, even though he technically owns Kofi. The playwright is showing us how deeply entrenched these power structures are, how they reach into every corner of their lives.
It made me think about those memes
Yeah.
where someone's shouting at a cashier, but then their boss shows up and they told her to change their tune. It's that same dynamic, except with way higher stakes.
Exactly. By the end of Act 1, the playwright has set up a world teeming with tension. You feel this budding connection between Kofi and Amma, but you also know it's under constant threat. And looming over it all is M. Francois, humiliated and ready to lash out.
Act 2 kicks off, and things escalate quickly. It's like the playwright took all that tension from Act 1 and just dropped a match on it. We're thrown right into the heart of the drama, with M. Francois attempting to assault Amma.
It's a truly terrifying scene. The way the playwright builds the suspense, you can almost feel Amma's fear. You know something awful's about to happen, and you're just waiting for Kofi to arrive.
And he does. Talk about a hero moment. But let's be real, it's not a happy ending just yet. M. Francois is left humiliated, and we all know what happens when someone with that much power is wounded. He vows revenge and starts gathering men to capture Kofi. He even arms himself with a pistol. Talk about intense.
This is where the title, The Love That Holds Us, really starts to hit home. Amma, in a desperate attempt to save Kofi, makes a choice that just leaves you speechless.
She offers herself to M. Francois in Kofi's place. Let that sink in for a moment. This is a woman who has already been stripped of so much, and she's willing to sacrifice even more to protect the man she loves. Talk about a powerful act of love.
It's gut-wrenching,
Yeah.
and it raises so many questions about agency and choice. Remember, Amma isn't making this decision in a vacuum. She's operating within a system designed to limit her options, to make her feel powerless. And yet, in this moment, she takes control. She makes a choice, even if it's a heartbreaking one.
And the way the playwright ends Act 2. I mean, WIW, Kofi turns directly to the audience and questions Emma's choice. It's like he's saying, what do you think? Was this the right thing to do?
It's such a brilliant move. It's like the playwright is taking us out of the role of passive observers and forcing us to confront the moral complexities of this situation. There's no easy answer. It's all shades of gray. And it leaves you hanging on the edge of your seat, desperate to know what happens next. That cliffhanger ending. It's pure genius. It's not just about what happens next in the story. It's about what happens next in our minds, as we try to grapple with the implications of Amma's
Right,
choice.
like we're used to these neat and tidy resolutions in stories, but life rarely works that way, especially in a situation as messed up as slavery, where every choice is loaded with impossible consequences.
And that's what makes Kofi's question so powerful. He's challenging us, the audience, to really think about what we would have done in that situation, to consider the weight of those choices and the toll they take on everyone involved.
It's really making me think about those would you rather questions. Except instead of silly hypotheticals, it's
Mhm.
about life and death, about love and survival under the most brutal conditions imaginable.
And remember, we're only seeing this story through a translation. I can only imagine how much more powerful those emotions must be in the original French. The desperation, the longing for freedom, the raw human pain. It must just jump off the page.
While for even through the translation, the language is so vivid. Like that moment when M. Francois was trying to assault Amma,
Mm.
her cries for help are bone-chilling. And then when
Oh.
Kofi arrives, the way he confronts M. Francois, it's both heroic and heartbreaking. You can feel the rage and the protectiveness pouring out of him.
The playwright doesn't hold back. He wants us to experience the raw, visceral reality of this situation. And then there's Oma's plea to M. Francois, offering herself in Kofi's place. The words themselves are simple, but the emotion behind them, it's devastating. You can practically feel her heart breaking as she speaks.
It's like she knows she's losing everything, but she's willing to do it anyway if it means saving Kofi. Yeah. It really makes you think about the different ways people cope with trauma. Kofi responds with defiance, fighting back with every ounce of strength he has. But Amma chooses self-sacrifice. It's like she's using the only weapon she has left, her own body, to protect the man she loves.
And this is where the playwright's brilliance shines through again. He's showing us that there's no one right way to survive a horrific experience. Every character responds differently, and those responses are shaped by their individual circumstances and personalities.
Yeah, it's like a reminder that even in the darkest of times, people find different ways to hold on to their humanity. Speaking of different responses, let's talk about Elsie and Alda for a second. They might seem like minor characters,
Yeah.
but I think they play a crucial role in this story.
Absolutely. They embody that casual cruelty and indifference that's so often present in systems of oppression. They benefit from the system without getting their hands dirty. Their laughter, their objectification of Kofi, it's all part of what allows this brutality to continue.
It's like they're living in this bubble of privilege, completely oblivious to the suffering around them. Or maybe they just choose to ignore it.
That's the question, isn't it? Are they willfully ignorant, or are they simply incapable of seeing beyond their own comfortable world? Either way, their complicity is undeniable. The playwright is making a point here. Oppression thrives on silence and inaction.
It makes me think about that quote. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing.
Mm.
Elsie and Alda might not be evil in the traditional sense, but their passivity, their unwillingness to challenge the status quo, makes them complicit in the suffering around them.
And it's not just a historical issue. This play is over a century old. But the themes it explores, power, privilege, complicity, they're still relevant today. It's a challenge for us to examine our own lives,
All right.
our own choices, and ask ourselves, are we doing enough to fight injustice? Are we using our voices to speak up for those who are marginalized? Or are we standing by, like Elsie and Alda, while others suffer?
That's heavy stuff. I think what's really sticking with me is that this play doesn't offer easy answers. It forces you to wrestle with these uncomfortable questions, to confront the complexity of human experience, especially under such oppressive circumstances.
Exactly. It's not about pointing fingers or offering simple solutions. It's about prompting reflection, sparking dialogue,
Yeah.
and challenging our own assumptions about love, sacrifice, and the legacy of oppression.
And I think that's where the play's ending really packs a punch.
Yeah.
Kofi, addressing the audience directly. It's like he's saying, this isn't just a story. This is a reflection of our shared humanity. And we all have a responsibility to grapple with its implications.
Precisely. And by leaving the ending open, the play invites us to continue the conversation, to
Yeah.
engage in dialogue, and to challenge our own assumptions about love, sacrifice, and the enduring legacy of oppression.
It's like he's saying, think about it.
Yeah. Like he's handing us the torch to carry the story forward and make it our own.
So
Yeah.
if we were sitting in that audience,
Mm-hmm.
face to face with Kofi, what would our answer be? Do we condone Amma's choice? Condemn it?
It's a question with no easy answers yet.
Right.
I think what makes it so challenging is that you can see both sides. On the one hand, I'm a sacrifice. It's an incredible act of love and selflessness. She's putting her own life on the line to protect someone else. And
Right.
that's incredibly powerful.
Yeah. But on the other hand,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to ignore the context. She's making this choice under duress
Mm-hmm.
in a system that stripped her of her basic human rights.
So, does true agency even exist in a situation like that?
It's a question that philosophers have grappled with for centuries.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what does it mean to be free when you're constantly under threat? When your choices are limited by forces beyond your control?
It makes you wonder what choice any of us would make if we were in that situation.
And let's not forget the psychological toll of this situation. We've talked about the physical brutality of slavery, but what about the mental and emotional scars? How does trauma like this shape a person's worldview, their relationships, their very sense of self?
That's something the play really forces you to confront. You see it in Kofi's anger, his defiance, his struggle to maintain his dignity in the face of such dehumanizing treatment. And you see it in Amma's quiet strength, her willingness to sacrifice everything for the man she loves.
It's like they're both trying to find a way to survive, to hold on to some shred of hope in a world that's determined to break them. And their love for each other, that becomes their anchor, their source of strength in this impossible situation.
Which brings us back to the title, The Love That Holds Us. It's not just a romantic notion, it's a powerful force that sustains them, that gives them a reason to keep going, even when everything seems lost.
You know, this deep dive has been an emotional roller coaster. We've gone from sweet moments of connection to brutal acts of violence, from displays of selfless love to casual cruelty. And through it all, the playwright has forced us to confront uncomfortable truths about ourselves, about our society, about the enduring legacy of oppression.
It's a reminder that these stories, even the ones that are centuries old, still have something to teach us. They challenge us to look beyond the surface, to question our assumptions, and to use our voices to speak out against injustice.
So, as we wrap up our deep dive into The Love That Holds Us, we'll leave you with one final thought. Imagine yourself in that audience, face to face with Kofi's question. What would your answer be? And what does that answer say about your own understanding of love, sacrifice, and the complexities of human existence? Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive